It was a cold, gray afternoon, the kind where the wind bites at your skin and the clouds hang low, threatening rain. I was walking through the park, lost in my own thoughts, when I heard a voice, small but urgent, cut through the air. "Don't eat that." I turned my head and saw a boy no older than 10 standing a few feet away. His clothes were worn, his face smudged with dirt, and his eyes wide with panic. He was looking at a man in a sleek, expensive coat, a billionaire, I later learned, who had just picked up a half-eaten sandwich from a nearby trash can. The billionaire froze, his hand hovering mid-air, the sandwich inches from his mouth. He looked at the boy, confusion and irritation flashing across his face. "What did you say?" he asked, his voice sharp. The boy stepped closer, his thin frame trembling. "Please, sir, don't eat that. It's bad, it'll make you sick." The billionaire frowned, glancing at the sandwich and then back at the boy. "And how would you know that?" The boy hesitated, his eyes darting to the ground. I saw someone put something in it earlier. They were messing with the trash, and I thought it was weird. Then I saw them drop that sandwich in there. I think they poisoned it." The billionaire's face went pale. He dropped the sandwich as if it had burned him, his eyes wide with shock. For a moment he just stared at the boy, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he crouched down to the boy's level, his expensive coat brushing the dirt. "Why would you warn me?" he asked, his voice softer now. "You don't even know me." The boy shrugged, his shoulders hunched against the cold. I didn't want you to get hurt. It's not right." The billionaire stared at him for a long moment, his eyes searching the boy's face. Then, without a word, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a thick wad of cash. He pressed it into the boy's hands. "Take this," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Get yourself some food, some warm clothes, and thank you. You saved me today." The boy looked down at the money, his eyes wide with disbelief. I can't take this," he stammered. "It's too much." The billionaire shook his head. "No, it's not enough. Not for what you did. You have a good heart, kid. Don't ever lose that." The boy's eyes filled with tears and he nodded, clutching the money tightly. The billionaire stood up, gave him one last look, and walked away, his steps slower, more thoughtful than before. I stood there, watching as the boy wiped his eyes and tucked the money into his pocket. He looked around, as if unsure what to do next, and then he turned and walked off into the park, disappearing into the gray afternoon. I couldn't help but feel a lump in my throat. In a world that often feels cold and uncaring, that boy's simple act of kindness had reminded me that there's still goodness out there. And sometimes, it comes from the most unexpected places. As I walked away, I couldn't stop thinking about the boy. What had his life been like? How had he ended up on the streets at such a young age? And yet, despite everything, he had chosen to help a stranger, even when it meant risking his own safety. I wondered if the billionaire would remember that moment, if it would change him in some way. Maybe it would make him more aware of the people around him, more willing to lend a hand to those in need. Or maybe it would just be a fleeting memory, something he would forget as soon as he returned to his world of luxury and comfort. But for the boy, I hoped it would be different. I hoped that the money would give him a chance to start over, to find a warm bed and a hot meal. And I hoped that he would never lose that kindness, that sense of right and wrong, no matter what life threw at him. As I left the park, the first drops of rain began to fall, cold and sharp against my skin. But for some reason, I didn't feel the chill as much as I had before. Maybe it was because of the warmth that boy had brought into the world, even if just for a moment. Or maybe it was because I had been reminded that, no matter how dark things seem, there's always a little bit of light to be found. And sometimes, that light comes from the most unexpected places. I thought about the boy for days after that. I wondered where he was, if he was safe, if he had found shelter from the rain. I even went back to the park a few times, hoping to see him again, but he was nowhere to be found. It was as if he had vanished into the city, just another face in the crowd. But I couldn't forget him. His courage, his selflessness, stayed with me, a quiet reminder of the power of kindness. It made me think about my own life, about the times I had turned away from someone in need, too busy or too distracted to care, and it made me want to be better, to do better. I started small, buying a meal for a homeless man I passed on my way to work, donating old clothes to a shelter, volunteering at a soup kitchen on weekends. It wasn't much, but it was something. And each time I did, I thought of that boy, of the way he had stood up for a stranger, even when it cost him nothing but his own safety. Hey everyone, if this story moved you, if it made you think, or if it reminded you why we need to keep having these conversations, please take a moment to like this video. It really helps spread awareness. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below. Have you ever witnessed or experienced something like this? Let's talk about it. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're here to share real, powerful stories that need to be heard. Lastly, share this with your friends and family. The more people who see this, the more we can bring awareness and change. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey. Let's keep pushing forward, together.